I'm a junior now, and I'm a marketing and entrepreneurship innovation management major. And Inventors Club, like Evan said, basically I joined right when it started, and I think it's a very great organization basically to get me started with being a product developer, since that's really something I'm passionate about. So welcome, and I'm very happy you guys joined us. If you have any questions, you're always welcome to message us on our emails or even our Instagram, which is invent_tu. So follow us.
My name is Quinn. I'm a marketing major. I'm an incoming senior, which I didn't expect, but I originally joined just to support Evan because he's my roommate. But after the first meeting, it really got me hooked, and I wanted to do something to help out, expand the program. So I guess here I am.
I'm Shamar. I'm also a senior, and I'm an engineering student. And so I was very interested in the club because of the aspect of being able to like develop prototypes and just being really hands-on with a lot of the events that they initially had. So I highly encourage like people of all majors, not just Fox, like students, to get involved.
Yeah, and it looks like we have a couple other people on the e-board, but I know Adam's, I think he's trying to get in right now. And he's another valuable member of our e-board and a few more. And so, yeah, basically we're looking to try to get the ball rolling a bit more heading into spring. And like we said, Rob and Alan have been, the two people driving forces and professors behind this club and helping us getting it started. So we wanted to have a summer kickoff event, and Rob's going to be running the show tonight, so I'll leave it off to him.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks, Evan. So I do think one of you guys in the e-board, if you want through the chat, you could potentially share your names and your email addresses, because I think it would be useful for people to have that direct contact. And also, Maida, if you want to share the social media, connection, so they can follow you guys on Twitter or wherever you guys are posting. So thanks a lot. So guys, I'm Robert McNamee. I'm the managing director of the Innovation Entrepreneurship Institute, and Alan Kersner is on the call, and Alan runs the Temple University Entrepreneurship Academy, which is basically designed to take entrepreneurship across campus. So Alan works with engineering and with Tyler School of Art to basically develop programs for those schools. And the Inventors Club is kind of a brainchild of mine. I really wanted to see more of our students find big success and make a lot of money, actually. Like, that's good for us, it's good for you guys, et cetera. And so this kind of the first slide here, I'm gonna talk a little bit about what the vision was and where we came from for anybody that's new. I'm going to share some inspirational examples that'll hopefully kind of show you guys it's not rocket science always, sometimes it is, but and I'll talk a little bit about the best way to actually kind of come about and come to finding some really solid ideas for the Inventors Club. And then we'll do an exercise actually and get you guys into breakout groups. And so I'll ask you guys in a little bit actually which group you might want to go to by default. And Alan's going to set up the breakout groups, and you can always change. If you sort of see a group you don't like, you can swap out. But we are going to try to give you guys about half an hour of kind of get to know each other and work together, and hopefully we'll find some teams, et cetera. And really, we just strongly believe in the quote on the bottom of this slide. We really want you guys that are at Temple to have all the opportunities to launch businesses while you're here, right? It's not like these days you don't have to like learn about entrepreneurship and then like maybe a few years later you do something. Successful entrepreneurs are actually serial entrepreneurs. And so what we wanted to do is kind of streamline the process for many people to try to launch their first business. And even if it wasn't successful or it was marginally successful, you ran into issues or whatever, you learn so much by doing that. And it's sort of the first kind of rip the Band-Aid off. And then the second time is easier, et cetera. And so really the most successful entrepreneurs are often serial entrepreneurs. And so we wanted to kind of foster that and encourage that. So a little bit of what the vision was for this. So the opportunity or the problem that we saw was that we're not really enough product ideas coming out of Temple. And so, we run a big institute. We have hundreds and hundreds of ideas, a lot of ideas coming out of Temple students and our alumni. And there were a lot of apps and there's a lot of service businesses, but there weren't that many product ideas. And what that means is that actually we weren't accessing crowdfunding the way we could. So Kickstarter and Indiegogo and some of these platforms are out there, and they're literally raising hundreds of millions of dollars a year for entrepreneurial endeavors. But it's really hard if you're trying to open a laundromat in North Philadelphia to go on Kickstarter and ask people to give you money for it. Like, it just doesn't work. But if you have a product that you can ship to people all around the United States, it's a lot easier to go out there and say, hey, we have invented this awesome widget, and we really, think it creates value, it solves this problem, and we really want to get investment. And so we were kind of saw that we wanted to get more companies that could have access to crowdfunding. And the other problem we saw is that a lot of students, and frankly entrepreneurs in general, is not a challenge of students, this is what happens. They spend a lot of time, or people spend a lot of time trying to find their perfect ideas. And so the reality is, it's not necessarily about finding the perfect idea, it's about learning how to execute on ideas properly. And so we wanted to kind of encourage this to be a faster process. And it doesn't have to be your lifelong dream idea. It could be a little idea that is along the way, right? And I think that's going to be a great way to kind of get you started on the entrepreneurial journey. And so our kind of vision for the Inventors Club was to create a factory that helps launch a whole bunch of ideas to market. Managed by and kind of made up of students from technology, design, and business. And basically we work closely, in particular Alan works closely with the e-board that you heard and with the members of the Inventors Club to basically decide on what do we want to do, what do we need to learn about, what's our next meeting look like. And so this is really all run by and for the students. And so this meeting, most of the meetings, those guys are doing all the talking. This is one of the few meetings they invite me back to do some talking. So I hope it stays entertaining. And there's basically weekly meetings to kind of help move things along. I think over the summer we're doing semi-weekly meetings, so meetings every other week, which I think is fantastic, by the way, that you guys are meeting over the summer. I know it's a weird time right now. It was a weird end of the spring semester. It's going to be a weird fall semester. But the reality is there's no time like the presents to do this stuff, right? And so if we wait too long, time just goes by. So it's great to make progress on the stuff in the summer. Some of you may have more time on your hands right now than you do when school hits, even if you're working or doing internships or whatever. The key thing for us is that we wanted this to be kind of lean and collaborative. Lean is fast in sort of entrepreneurial terms. So we wanted product ideas that could be really quickly validated and launched, something in like 3 to 6 months. And we wanted it to be collaborative. So we wanted this to be teams of students that would kind of get co-ownership an idea and kind of help encourage each other to drive that thing through to fruition, right? So co-owned, co-launched by student teams. You guys own all the IP, you guys own the ideas. We're trying to find early stage funding for you, and we have some available already. And so we just really want you guys to be successful. We hope that many of you will go on to raise hundreds of millions of dollars and donate money back to the Institute eventually, but that's down the road. So one thing we wanted to kind of encourage you to do, and this is kind of part of this model for the Inventors Club, is that it can be it can encourage people to invest in your idea if you're multi-bottom line, if you're basically making the world a better place. And in this case, as part of a university, the goal is actually that the ideas that come out of here, that 10% of the kind of proceeds or profits will be donated back to the club to help invest in the next generation of ideas. And so what we'd like to do is kind of create a virtuous cycle where if you guys you make $20 million, some chunk of money comes back, and the next 10 ideas that want to get launched by students have kind of easy early stage funding, and that would help prime the pump and get the whole engine running. The other benefit to this is that you can say, like, this is Temple made, we're supporting next generation Temple students, and you can really talk about this all as like, we're doing good, we're creating opportunities for kids and students to create entrepreneurial ventures. That's a positive message. Everybody wants to hear young entrepreneurs having a chance. And so what we'd like to do then is, once kind of the first ideas are ready to launch, communicate to the students, alumni, parents, any other Temple stakeholders, and basically market to some of these audiences first and say, this is an awesome thing to support. Please buy these products or invest in these companies, right? And that would work really well. And then once you get some initial interest and demand, we can really go to the crowd in crowdfunding and try to get investment from the outside kind of world. And guys, if you guys have any questions kind of along the way, please feel free to jump in. On the chat, you could. That's probably the easiest way. So just jump in on the chat if you have any questions as we kind of go. And so I do think there's a great opportunity here for us to get alumni to basically buy your products in the get-go and sort of support you guys. The idea on the right here is actually kind of what made me realize that we could just do this, and it didn't have to be, so complicated. So a couple of alums of Temple University created this product, which is called the Nut Button. And some of you may have seen the press release about it or been in the earlier meetings where we talked about it. But they've basically, this is a button. It's a plastic button, kind of like a Staples Easy button. And when you push it, it just says nut. It's nothing complicated. There was a meme out there, and I'm not going to go into the meme, but there was a meme that they kind of thought, oh, there should be a physical version of this button. And they've sold several $100,000 worth of this button now. Now, this is what I mean by not rocket science. This is really simple. It was just on trend. They put it up on Amazon and it sold. And so when I saw this, I'm like, you know, I'd love for more of our students to be doing this in areas that they think are fun and interesting. And that was kind of the idea. So what we need to do here is we need to create a pipeline of ideas, and we're going to need a lot of ideas to come through this pipeline to have some be successful. A lot of these ideas will fail, or they'll kind of hit a dead end. You'll find out, oh, there's not really a need for that. So this is actually why we need to have a lot of ideas that are being worked, because hopefully if we have dozens of ideas in the pipeline, a few of them will be really, really successful. And we'll have a couple of those $1 million ideas that come out the back end. The kind of ideas we're trying to encourage you guys to look for here, and that we're trying to foster, are ideas, first of all, no regulatory hurdles. Like, we don't want something that's going to require FDA approval to get it to market, right? Because that takes a long time. We want to have minimal liability and risk. We don't want to, you know, sort of broadcast something that's going to, you know, prevent the coronavirus right now. Although it's on trend, it's a little risky to advertise that, and it takes a lot of testing to prove it. We want to go after accessible markets. That's markets that you guys have easy access to, or that we have easy access to. That could include students, parents, you know, alumni. It could include other groups. And we want problems that we can address, right? We're not trying to cure cancer here. We want technologically feasible ideas. That doesn't mean that they have to have no technology, but it means that your team should have people that can do the technology needed for the idea, right? They should be relatively cheap and fast to market. You know, we don't want, oh, if I only had $10 million, I could launch this idea. That's not going to work very well. And there should be a little differentiation, although this is a nuance, because you see a lot of ideas that are really successful on crowdfunding that are incrementally different than another idea that just launched on crowdfunding. And so if it's on point and on trend, it can do well, even if it's not that differentiated. But you basically have to have a likelihood that people will buy it, right? That people need it or want it. Ideally, our teams would be 3 to 6 students from different backgrounds. I know we have business students on this call. We have some technology students from engineering. I know we have maybe 1 or 2 art students. I would love to have more art students on these things, and I know Alan always harps on that. So if you guys have friends that are in art, design, advertising, film, and media, like, we really want more of the artists in the at the table. Because ideally, these teams would have diverse backgrounds, and that would be really nice. And ultimately, the teams would kind of share in the equity of the idea or the resulting venture. And we have some frameworks, and we've done some sessions on how to split up your equity. So basically, if you have 4 founders and one person puts in twice as much time, one person puts half as much time, there are some frameworks that help you make decisions about how much equity each of those founders should have. And so we do have some things to streamline that. So the initial areas that we decided on to focus in, we're open to if any of you have ideas that you want to work on, this is an open forum to kind of bring them up, and we'll have a time later in the session to sort of talk about this. But if you have an idea for a product and you're ready to launch it and you want a team to join you, it's great, you can do that. But the main areas for those that don't have ideas that we kind of decided to carve off was to do basically games, and it was like board games or kind of games, or, you know, basically physical games. Pet products is another area. And we worked in several smart home areas, so like kitchen, bathroom, and bedroom. So any smart home technology is like when you say, like, hey Alexa, or hey Google, and turn on the light, or, you know, open my blinds, or turn off the Christmas lights, or, you know, whatever you might do. There's a lot of these kind of smart home technologies, and there's a lot of opportunities in that space, and they're not that complicated technologically. Now, we also have a few different current ideas, and I'll give you guys that have these ideas time in a second to talk about them. But we have one group that's already working on challenge cards. We have a gaming bathroom mat. I kind of said that in a nice way. There's UV purifying towel racks. And there's kind of a device to monitor how much hot water is left before you get in a cold shower. And so there's a couple of ideas that are kind of already have teams formed around, and we'll have a breakout session where those people can join those teams in a bit. So let me give you guys a couple of other inspirational examples here. So there are a lot of people making a lot of money with pretty simple devices. And this is, I think, why what we want to encourage you guys with, so that's why it's called inspiration. So this is one of the ones that I saw, and I'm like, man, I wish one of my students had invented this, right? So this is a very simple device. It's called the SwitchBot curtain. And it's that white thing there that you hang on your curtain rod, and it has a little wheelie and a motor. And you basically can say, hey, Google, open my blinds. And it will, or open my shades, and it will open your curtains. So all it does is roll along your curtain rod and open your curtains, or it rolls along your curtain rod and closes your curtains. And it also did have some temperature sensors in there, so it could actually detect if it was really hot outside and cool inside, and it would automatically close your curtains. Or you could set a time that you wanted your curtains to open in the morning, like when you want to wake up, or a time when you want them to close because you're going to bed. And so again, some very, very simple technology in here, and it might be a little hard to read, but 3,700 backers pledged $678,000 to make this product come to life. This is a really simple product. I mean, I could make it. Anybody that's an engineer in this call could probably make this product with some very minimal Raspberry Pi or Arduino or some simple technology. Second example I'll give you, and this is actually something I probably could make on a 3D printer. Anybody could make this. It was a fidget cube. It very recently launched, and April 7th, 2020. And if you notice, 154,000 backers pledged almost $6.5 million to bring this product to life. Now, this is a fidget cube, and so you can see it there. I guess it's got like a little ball you can roll and other things, all things you can mess with, right? In fact, they do make these things for kids with sensory disorders. Like, that's a common thing, actually. But I guess that basically a lot of people need something to fidget with while we're on Zoom calls all day these days. And so for whatever reason, the fidget cube did really well on crowdfunding. And we don't have time to watch all these videos, but I really encourage you guys to spend some time on Kickstarter and Indiegogo and just watch some of these videos and see the products. And I'm sure you're like, I could have thought of that. I mean, there's so many ideas like that. So a couple others. This one is still live right now, so you have 3 days left if you want to invest in the Terra Planter, which is some kind of inside-out planner. I have seen this advertised on my social media, but 44,000 backers have raised over $5 million for this. And it's basically a modern-day Chia Pet. Many of you might be too young to know Chia Pet unless you watch cable channels, but you know, Chia Pet is like basically seeds and whatever, and you water it, and the plants grow out of it, and it's a pot slash plant slash whatever. But I have seen this advertised, and I did not know that they were making over $5 million on it. So really simple idea. You know, adding greenery to the household. This is these are all the kinds of ideas that we could absolutely come up with using the approaches that we're doing in the club. One last idea I'll share is the 10-second toothbrush, and this is a very simple kind of bite guard style toothbrush that I guess somehow brushes your teeth. I haven't watched the video, but again, to emphasize that you know, almost 27,000 backers pledged over 3.2 million euros. I don't know what the conversion rate is, but that's a pretty decent amount of money. So people have raised a lot of money for this thing as well. And again, this is not that complicated technology. I'm sure it uses UV light or something to purify itself between brushings, etc. But none of these things are rocket science. And these things are just solving fundamental little needs at a price point that people are willing to commit to, and in a relatively risky environment of crowdfunding. Right? Crowdfunding, there's no guarantee. It might take you a year to get this toothbrush, right? Because it's not as guaranteed. So it's not like you're going on Amazon to buy things. You're investing in innovative ideas, and people are doing it in huge numbers still. So how do you find the opportunities that might be worth $1 million? And you know, it'd be great if there was a silver bullet for this, but really it involves a little work and time. But in general, entrepreneurial opportunity recognition involves a few things. It involves active search, and active search means you're committed to finding a problem that you're going to solve, finding an opportunity out there. It does involve your prior knowledge and social networks. So the things you know about are areas that you're more likely to maybe identify or know problems in and potentially solve them. And the degree to which your networks and the people you connect to and where you're immersed in life basically gives you the ammunition and the kind of raw materials to come up with ideas. So it is important to get, when the world is open up and we're allowed to again, get out there and live life, because it will give you it will help bring opportunities to you. And once you get good at this stuff, there's something called entrepreneurial alertness. And basically, once you kind of learn about design thinking, you learn to recognize opportunities, when you're walking around and living your life, you say, that is an opportunity. That should be fixed. That should be fixed. And suddenly it can be turned on. You can just start seeing these opportunities everywhere around you. And there's, you know, it can become a natural kind of instinct. It's important to emphasize, though, that the first step of this, and the reason I'm talking about, some of this stuff I talked about all the way in the first meeting of the Inventors Club, and then we've kind of like let it go a little bit on its own, but I want to step back to some of this, because I think some people are struggling right now. Some people have found ideas and they're working on ideas. Other people are struggling to pick an idea they want to work on. But I think to some extent, some people might be kind of focusing their energy in the wrong space. They've been trying to find an interesting idea for a solution. And I want to encourage you all to step back and actually find problems, find opportunities to improve things, find things that are broken in the world, right? Find things that are pain points for people. this should really be your starting point. And this is the way that design thinking works, and it is the most successful way to actually invent products or services or solutions in general or whatever. The point is, if you find a problem that really exists, now you can start to figure out how to solve it. And so there's a famous quote by Albert Einstein, and Alan and I are prone to put this in presentations, so I hope you might have seen it in my class or in Alan's class, you might have seen it somewhere else. But so basically, Albert Einstein is famous for having said, if I had an hour to solve a problem and my life depended on the solution, I would spend 55 minutes trying to understand what the right question to ask was, like understand the problem. And then once I know the proper question, I could solve the problem in less than 5 minutes. And this is really what it comes down to. You should spend more of your time on understanding what the problem is and why it exists and what the opportunity is, what user needs are. And then from there, solutions naturally kind of emerge. And so that's how design thinking is positioned. That's what we're going to do a little bit of today. And that's how I want to encourage you guys to spend the coming weeks, is try to find a problem that's exciting and interesting to you. And then try to get a team together that also finds that problem interesting, and then work together as a team to try to solve it. And that can be a successful approach to this. So this active search process that I'm kind of talking about is what's called design thinking. And for those of you that haven't been involved in this, for those of you that have been involved, you've probably seen this in my class or other classes. But design thinking is a process to basically bring human-centered design to the entrepreneurial world, right? It's about how do you solve problems being very, very user-centric. And so there's kind of three main phases. There's inspiration, ideation, and implementation. And the inspiration part is all about actually recognizing a person's need or want, recognizing a problem and understanding that opportunity. And so it involves understanding the problem, observing and developing insights, and developing a point of view. And the point of view is basically how you want to frame a problem statement. From here, you go into ideation. And here you generate ideas. You can prototype an idea, and Alan often refers to it as develop your MVP, right? That's kind of your prototype, either on paper or physically. And then you go through a bunch of testing processes. And from here, you go into ways to basically implement. And this involves telling your story, piloting your program, developing your business model. And this part has been kind of replaced a little by lean startup to some extent in the way that we typically teach it these days. So there's three kind of important perspectives, and I'll talk about each one a little bit briefly, and then we'll go into the workshop part of this. The jobs to be done is a really important perspective to design thinking. And again, I know a lot of you have probably heard about jobs to be done, but jobs to be done is a really subtle and complex thing. And if you really understand it, it changes how you see everything around you, especially when you think about product invention or invention in general. We'll talk about the value proposition canvas, which basically uses jobs to be done, which is why it's important. And we'll actually use that tool as a way to summarize user insights about problems and brainstorming solutions. That's the thing we're going to use in the workshop today. And then basically lean startup is going to be the way you're going to test these things. So once you get an idea, I know like Adam's in the midst of this and some of you are in the midst of this, like Alan will keep getting you on the lean startup, like, have you talked to enough users? Have you talked to enough users? And it's always about testing your assumptions and understanding your assumptions. That's where lean startup comes in. Now, Alan had sent me some timelines for this, and I do want to encourage you to kind of put some deadlines and kind of make some progress. I do think that over the summer here, you can either come to the point of having a solution that seems like it might have merit, and then you can hit the fall running and we can start testing that. But even if you just get to the point where you know there's a really worthy problem that you want to solve, that's a big step. And so I kind of put on here 2 to X weeks, which Alan's going to hate that. But so basically, it depends on how long it takes you to find a problem that floats your boat, a problem that excites you. You need to pick a problem that you like, that you want to work on. And so that's the kind of first step, is picking out a problem in the world that you want to try to solve. And you can do that quickly, but if it takes longer, it takes longer. Ultimately, that's your first step. From here, you're going to ideate. You're going to generate ideas. You're going to evaluate those ideas. You're going to select ideas. And that you can usually do over a couple of weeks to a few weeks. From there, you get into like developing your minimum viable product and prototyping and testing. And that can take several weeks or just a couple of weeks. It depends on what you find out. If you find out that your idea in its first form doesn't work, you sometimes have to pivot it and start over a little bit. And so there's some iteration that happens in that testing mode. And then finally, when you actually get to start launching, you may have to create a website and do some other things. And so we may be that may take a few months actually, but we'd like to encourage you to do this as quickly as possible, and we'll support you to help you do it as quickly as possible. And we can help you shortcut some of these processes, right? So you don't necessarily need $1 million website to do this, right? And in general, the goal here is to accelerate this process and keep it moving. And so we just want to encourage you not to get held up looking for perfection at each step. We want to encourage you to kind of movement is essential here. So the jobs to be done perspective, there's a kind of a famous quote out there. It's this idea that people don't want to buy a 1/4-inch drill, they want a 1/4-inch hole. And basically it's like people don't want your product, they want what your product allows them to do, right? They want the outcome of your product. And so again, some of you guys have probably seen this, but I'm not sure that everybody has. And so I want to play a quick video by Clay Christensen about the job that milkshakes do. I actually realized I shared this the wrong way, so let me share this. All right, hopefully you guys can. All right, 1 second. All right, guys, so let me just play this video. I hope that you guys can hear the audio.
We decided that the way we teach marketing is at the core of what makes motivation difficult to achieve. The most helpful way we've thought of it so far is that we actually hire products to do things for us. And understanding what job we have to do in our lives for which we would hire a product is really the key to cracking this problem of motivating customers to buy what we're offering. So I wanted just to tell you a story about a project we did for one of the big fast food restaurants. They were trying to goose up the sales of their milkshakes. They had just studied this problem up the gazoo. They brought in customers who fit the profile of the quintessential milkshake consumer. They'd give them samples and ask, could you tell us how we can improve our milkshakes so you buy more of them? Do you want it chocolatey or cheaper, chunky or chewier? They get very clear feedback. They would then improve the milkshake on those mentions, and it had no impact on sales or profits whatsoever. So one of our colleagues went in with a different question on his mind, and that was, I wonder what job arises in people's lives that cause them to come to this restaurant to hire a milkshake. So we stood in a restaurant for 18 hours one day and just took very careful data. What time did they buy these milkshakes? What were they wearing? Were they alone? Did they buy other food with it? Did they eat it in the restaurant or drive off with it? It turned out that nearly half of the milkshakes were sold before 8 o'clock in the morning. The people who bought them were always alone, and it was the only thing they bought, and they all got in the car and drove off with it. So to figure out what job they were trying to hire it to do, we came back the next day and stood outside the restaurant so we could confront these folks as they left, milkshake in hand. And in language that they could understand, we essentially asked, excuse me, please, but I gotta sort this puzzle out. What job were you trying to do for yourself that caused you to come here and hire that milkshake? And they'd struggle to answer, so we'd then help them by asking other questions like, well, think about the last time you were in the same situation, needing to get the same job done, but you didn't come here to hire a milkshake. What did you hire? And then as we put all of their answers together, it became clear that they all had the same job to do in the morning, and that is they had a long and boring drive to work. And they just needed something to do while they drove to keep the commute interesting. One hand had to be on the wheel, but somebody had given them another hand and there wasn't anything in it. They just needed something to do while they drove. They weren't hungry yet, but they knew they'd be hungry by 10 o'clock. So they also wanted something that would just go down there and stay for their morning. Good question. What do I hire when I do this job? You know, I've never framed the question that way before, but last Friday I hired a banana to do the job. Take my word for it, never hire bananas. You're gone in 3 minutes, you're hungry by 7:30. If you promise not to tell my wife, I'd probably hire donuts twice a week, but they don't do it well either. They're gone fast, they crumb all over my clothes, they get my fingers gooey. Sometimes I hire bagels, but as you know, they're so dry and tasteless. Then I have to steer the car with my knees while I'm putting jam on them, and then if the phone rings, we got the crisis. I remember I hired a Snickers bar once, but I felt so guilty I've never hired Snickers again. Let me tell you, when I come here and hire this milkshake, it is so viscous that it easily takes me 20 minutes to suck it up that thin little straw. Who cares what the ingredients are? I don't. All I know is I'm full all morning and it fits right here in my cup holder. Well, it turns out that the milkshake does the job better than any of the competitors, which in the customers' minds are not Burger King milkshakes, but it's bananas, donuts, bagels, Snickers bars, coffee, and so on. But I hope you can see how, if you understand the job, how to improve the product becomes just obvious.
So guys, I hope you guys could hear that okay. I couldn't do a lot to play with it. You said it was a little quiet. Could you guys hear it okay? So? All right. So what do you guys think of that perspective? Does it make sense? Interesting? Surprising? Anybody can just jump in.
I've seen this video before, but I definitely, it's like a different way to think about it. Like I never really, I didn't know that's how, you're supposed to look at it until just now. So it's very interesting. Gives you a different perspective.
Sure.
This is Paris. I'll agree. I'm an accounting major, so we don't think much about invention in our neck of the woods, but this was certainly very eye-opening. Thank you for sharing.
Sure. Yeah, and I know, like mine, I know you've seen in my class. I think it's good to reinforce it because I think it's interesting. So I'm just doing a graduate class on business model innovation right now, and it's really hard to get your mind wrapped around this. Like, so, like I have a student in my class that works at Nike, and so basically he was looking at a new kind of skateboard sneaker, and when he was initially doing the value proposition canvas, he was basically saying that, people need comfortable sneakers. Like that was the kind of his perspective on the needs. And I actually said, you got to step back a little bit from that, because actually what people really need is a fun skateboarding experience, or to connect with their friends, or to feel good about themselves, or to be healthy. That's what they actually need. Now, you may have a sneaker that you think helps them do that, but the key thing about this jobs to be done perspective is it really separates your product from the customer's needs and allows you to think really broadly about what customers truly need, right, and want. Now, thank you guys for the comments. And so the milkshake video is an interesting one because it helps you realize that, like, so first of all, I never would have imagined that more than 50% of people buy milkshakes at 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't know who these people are because I can't imagine buying a milkshake in the morning like that, but I definitely know I buy a cup of coffee, and I don't buy a cup of coffee because I desperately want coffee. I buy a cup of coffee because I need to be awake and like tolerable, and I need to be able to like be patient enough to deal with my family and coworkers and everybody else, right? And if I don't have my coffee, it's not as easy. So, we all have something to do. So the jobs to be done perspective basically looks at what people want to accomplish with your product. And it gets into the needs and wants of people in a certain setting, in a certain situation. And so, again, this perspective I presented previously, people don't want to buy a 1/4-inch drill, they want a 1/4-inch hole. Even that actually is fairly limiting. The reality is people don't actually want holes. Like, who the heck wants a hole? Like, that's not what you actually want. There's something you want to accomplish. And so your jobs are things like, you want to hang something on the wall, you want to pass something through something else, or you want to access the space behind something. These are some of the examples of why we drill holes, right? And the reality is even those are fairly generic. So if you really think about it, people want to hang a picture, or they want to mount and wire a new TV, or they want to run electrical wires. These are the actual jobs that people have. Now, the thing about the jobs to be done perspective, it also pushes you to think about social and emotional needs. And in the end, this is what drives all of us, right? If you connect people to their family, you can connect them to friends, you can help people have better love lives. Like, these are things that really get people motivated, right? And so if you can solve a social or emotional need, and there's a whole ton of them, but if you can solve a social or emotional need with your product, that is going to allow it to be much more valuable to your consumers, to your users. And so even in this case, when you want to hang a picture, it might be to impress your family or friends, or maybe to remind yourself of special moments, or to feel a sense of satisfaction and accomplishment when you look at your home and it looks beautiful, right? Or you might, when you hang a TV, you might want to expand your entertainment options or create more fun social gatherings. If you're running electrical wires, you might want to create a safer home environment or protect your family or something else. The point is that there are real needs you have here. And this is how, in this case, for example, 3M invented command strips that let you just basically, use a sticky thing to hang a picture instead of having to drill a hole or put a nail in the wall. And they realized that was an alternative to help people do the same job. So the value proposition canvas, like I said, this is what we're going to use in this worksheet. I really encourage you guys, when you're first working on ideas, to use the value proposition canvas. It's really valuable. The way this is, on the right side, the circle side of the value proposition canvas talks about your user needs. And the left side talks about your product. And the reality is, this is framed around 3 components of user needs. There's the jobs that they want to get done, and then there's their pains and their gains. And the pains are basically the things that are bad about the current situation, and the gains are things that people might appreciate if they were added to the situation. So there's a whole bunch of details, and I don't expect you to read this, but if you Google the value proposition canvas, excuse me, you can find examples that are readable, and you can see some of these instructions. But again, the jobs to be done perspective is the one that's a little bit harder to understand, so I wanted to give a little bit of that background. So like I said, on the left side, the leftmost triangle is your offering, your product and services that you kind of package up to deliver value. But what the value proposition canvas lets you do is map how well this product helps accomplish the jobs to be done on the right side, and how well it resolves pains and gains that your users have. Now, it's important when you're using the value proposition canvas, you're going to basically brainstorm through people's needs. You're going to identify, oh, people in this situation have all these different jobs they want to accomplish. They have these pains, they have these needs, they have these gains they'd appreciate, and we want to solve for this. The problem is you can't solve for everything. So when you're picking your problem, what you want to do is use the value proposition canvas to explore a certain space. And again, we'll talk about games and smart home and pet care and what have you. So you use the right side to explore that space. But ultimately, what you're going to want to look for are some themes, because you can't do everything. And you can pick some of those themes out and identify a theme you think represents a worthwhile opportunity for improvement. So it's a job with a couple of pains and a gain. Those things together make up that opportunity to improve things for your user. And you might have to reject a few other things and then pick one of those. And when you pick one of those, that's where you can start to really dig into it. You say, you know what, it's really painful when your dog dies. Let's just say, this is one of the things that's actually on the value proposition canvas for pet care. It's really painful when your dog dies. Is there anything we can do about that, right? And then you can start to understand, why is it painful? And a lot of people replace their dog right with a new dog. That's like one technique to deal with it, right? But and some people stuff their dog and put it as a doormat. There's all kinds of techniques for dealing with your dog dying. So the point is, though, whatever the problem you're going to build up, you then want to understand why does this problem exist? What are the features of it? And that'll give you insights that let you solve it. And ultimately, then you can frame this as a problem statement that you can brainstorm solutions to. And your solutions take the form of products, hopefully in this. There may be some services as well, but that's kind of a rough process you go through. What's interesting about this is that, in general, the more unique, interesting kind of niche this path is, the more likely you are to actually get into innovative space that nobody solved before. And so actually working in kind of niche areas is a good thing for entrepreneurs, because you don't want to try to make a better sneaker than Nike, as I say in my class. It's too hard to compete against the big players. And so the more kind of niche you get, the more specific and nuanced you get in your insights about the problem, the more likely you are to come up with innovative solutions. All right, so let's get back to the initial areas for focus. And I believe that, Alan, here was going to be the chance that we wanted to let people present. I also realized that I forgot to ask Alan in the beginning about which group people want to get into.
Yeah, so Rob, if we can, just before people present, if everyone could go to chat and say which of these areas they would like to be grouped into. And
yeah, so guys, we're gonna do a breakout, and so more or less what we just need is, it's just gonna be your first breakout group. We can move you to a different one, but there's basically a few current ideas. So one of them is challenge cards, which are around making sort of challenges around games and things for friends. There's a kind of gaming bathroom mat. There's a UV purifying towel rack, and kind of a technology to check how much hot water is left. Now, those people will present their ideas in a second. The other areas of focus are games or gaming. Pet products is another one, or smart home. And here you have to be specific. So either do you want to work on smart home stuff in the kitchen, the bathroom, or the bedroom? And so basically, if you could just put like a couple of words in chat about which group you might think you want to get into. Again, we can always change you, but then while the other people are presenting, Alan's going to try to get you guys assigned to some of the breakout groups so we don't have so much downtime. So guys, just use your chat to type in a few words about which breakout group you want to get into. And if you guys don't know how to get the chat up, the chat is Alt-H in Zoom, I believe. Awesome. Thank you, guys. All right, Alan, can I let people start presenting?
Yes, please.
All right. So, Adam, do you want to kick things off with talking about what you're working on with the challenge cards for a couple minutes?
Sure. I think Evan has a PowerPoint that has like a slide for each of us on there.
Yeah, Rob, do you mind just giving me permission to share my screen real quick so I can pull up the PowerPoint?
Yeah, sure. Actually, Alan, you have to make Evan co-host because you made, I'm not the host. Alan, do you hear me? Okay.
Evan, you should be good.
Yeah, you're a co-host now, Evan, so you should be able to share your screen.
All right, perfect. Okay, can you guys all see the PowerPoint now?
Yep.
All right.
Perfect.
There you go.
So my idea is called penalty cards, and I got the inspiration for this idea when we were brainstorming the game ideas, but this isn't really a game at all. It's actually like a supplement to any type of multiplayer game. So video games or board games. The idea is that before you start a game with a group of people, you pull out from a deck of cards one of these challenge cards, and there's a challenge on it, like a dare or something like that, that the loser has to perform if they lose. So like the value proposition is that normally when you're playing games, the winner's the only one who really gets like the kind of joy of like playing, you know, when they win. And especially for longer board games like Monopoly, you know, Cards Against Humanity, games that can kind of drag on after a while. It can become clear who the winner is going to be if there's like one or two people kind of, you know, leading ahead point wise, and it can become less interesting for people who are kind of losing or just other people in the middle. So what this does is it makes pretty much anyone who's not the loser a winner, and it keeps the game interesting all throughout as you're fighting not to be the loser, to have to perform whatever challenge is on that card. So for instance, you have a heart. They're in 3 different levels, like easy, medium, hard. And this one, for instance, like someone has to give you a face tattoo with a permanent marker. Another thing we came up with was a thing called winner's choice. So some of the cards will have that winner's choice at the bottom, where the winner actually gets the perk of choosing some aspect of the challenge. Like in this case, they get to pick the design that the tattoo will be. So the winner still gets some benefit to winning, but it makes the game more exciting for everyone involved and not just the winner. So right now where I'm at is that I want to eventually come out with physical cards, but obviously it's kind of a process to come up with physical cards, get inventory, and then sell it. So my approach so far has been creating an app, actually, an app version of it. I have background in iOS development, so I'm almost finished with this app, and I'm ready to go into like a beta test with any testers that I can find. They want to test the app out, see how they like it, and then beyond that, I'm just working pretty much in like the MVP mode right now, just trying to get feedback from users, feedback from people, and like idea validation, basically. I think that about covers it, though.
And one thing, I'll just jump in here, Adam. So one interesting thing is that a lot of times apps allow you to create like a freemium model. So he might be able to make an app that he gives for free, but then if people want to actually have a physical card or some other premium version or whatever, he could have a premium model that sort of upsells that. And that can be a great way to drive adoption.
And that's kind of perfect for this, because I was planning on coming out with expansion packs too, beyond the base pack, and that's perfect for in-app purchases, where $1 per pack, you have an extra pack or something like that. Yeah, that's exactly right.
All right, then I guess me and Quinn can go into our idea a bit. So what we came up with was during one of our idea generations in the Inventors Club, we were doing, value proposition on a bathroom. And one of the ideas came about is when me and my brother were younger, we were sports fans and stuff. And as a joke, we used to, around our upstairs kids' bathroom, the toilet, duct tape a basketball court over there, just as a design. And we all thought it was hilarious. When all of our friends came over, we would have them use that bathroom and they found it hilarious. And we all got a good joke out of it. And I was sharing that experience as we were doing the value proposition. Everyone in the group also found it funny. And we were just thinking, okay, how could we then make this into a product? So what we came up with was just a bath mat with a twist to it, unique design, as you can see right here. And so that's kind of how we came up with the idea. It's very simple. The reason we wanted to go with this, kind of like Rob mentioned, me and Quinn, we don't really have much entrepreneurial experience or anything, but we wanted something feasible that we could utilize lean startup through, go through step by step, and kind of learn along the way with low risk that we thought was a good idea. So we initially created a few different designs, and we just sent it around to like a small target group, people like 18 to 25. We didn't want all college students, but that's kind of our target market. People that are moving into apartments, young age. Most people have bath mats, so why not get one with a twist? And they all found it funny and stuff. So we came up with this design, and we actually had a meeting with Alan yesterday where we're going to now try to create like a landing page and see if there's actually value in this. Because it's easy to assume that we find this funny, everyone in the group finds it funny, that there's value, people would say they're going to buy it, but really those are just people we know and friends. So we want to see if we can create a website and if people will actually, click through the website and see if there's any real value. So that's kind of the step that we're at right now with that. I don't know if you want to add anything, Quinn.
We were thinking even like licensing just for the sake of, people would more likely buy a bath mat just to represent their school even, but we don't know if we're even going to even touch that step yet, because like Kaiser said, we want to make sure that this is going to be like a product that people would actually want to buy, and the click rate through a potential website.
And this is where, guys, we'll always jump in and give you guys advice, because in this case, for example, you could just actually put logos on stickers. So you might have trouble licensing a mat that goes around your toilet. Like Temple might not give you license that, but you might be able to include a sticker, and you might even be able to have the opponent's team, like the team that people don't like, might be makes more sense to put on the bathroom floor. But again, the lean startup approach that they just mentioned, this is the kind of stuff we coach you guys through. So again, as you guys are hearing these ideas, so just Adam and Evan, are you guys both looking for teammates? Where are you guys kind of on the looking for teammates area?
So I actually got the designing for all the cards done by like a freelancer. So at this point, I don't like, I'm almost like done the process of like the creating the product and everything. So if anything, maybe someone, maybe like in the marketing area then to like for the product launch that's coming up. So something like that maybe.
Yeah, so again, guys, in general, what we want to encourage you guys to do is form teams, but it has to be kind of, everybody has to agree to it, sort of that kind of model. And so it may not be that Adam may not need help as a core teammate, but you can still join his breakout group now to help him brainstorm about ideas. And that has been a big part of the value of doing this, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and to go off that, Quinn and I are certainly looking for more teammates. When we started researching, okay, how could we create an MVP? How would someone down the line go and help us manufacture with this? We definitely want someone with a more technological background, someone that has a bit more experience with prototyping or anything like that, to help us, or really anyone that thinks they can kind of help us along the way and add value. So like we said, and like Rob said, like the whole point of the club is to be very team oriented, community help us along the way. And me and Quinn are certainly looking for anyone that's also feels like there's value here and excited about the product.
Awesome, thanks.
Just one moment.
I'm going to stop sharing, Shamar, then if you want to show your screen.
Okay. So I'm currently working on developing the UV hand towel purifier. And so a few of the questions that went into developing the idea for my product was, I was thinking about what current trends or concerns exist. And given like the pandemic that's happening right now, cleanliness is definitely a high priority for most people. And so then I started asking questions about how does that affect, how does that affect individuals on a day-to-day, and what products could I improve to remedy some of those concerns? And so the UV towel purifier was just to sort of meet the needs of individuals. It could be either in home or in public areas. Like sharing a hand towel might be a cause for concern for some people in this moment. And at the moment, I'm currently working on doing market research, trying to set up a landing page to really verify the need for the product, as well as looking into different ways in which I can market it. That's everything. If anyone else has any questions.
And I do think some of the conversation here, Shamar, has been, given the current pressure and all the cleanliness push and everything, I think is the towel rack the best place to put the UV light, or is there some other applications? So I think that's an interesting conversation you guys are still having, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I know my mom just bought me a UV phone case, like the thing you put your phone in when you get home, and it apparently drowns your phone in UV lights to clean, because apparently that's one of the germiest things that we carry around with us. So there's a lot of UV, there's a lot of purification stuff that's selling a lot right now.
Should I go ahead and stop sharing that?
And Alan, I don't know, is the person with the hot water heater tracker thing on the call?
No, he's not.
So I think that this is one of the ideas. So again, some of these ideas have emerged as part of our Inventor Club meetings, and they're kind of fair game for any team to sort of join up with. If an idea comes up and people are like, oh, that's awesome, but then they don't have time or bandwidth to work on it, like, we want to see you guys launch ideas. And so one of the ideas that came up during one of the meetings was basically a monitor of some type that would tell you how much hot water was left in the hot, so that you wouldn't jump in and like either if you knew that there wasn't that much more, you take a really fast shower, or if you knew there was plenty, you could relax and take a longer shower. And so basically you wouldn't be caught, with your hair full of shampoo, when the hot water ran out, basically, right? And so that was one of the ideas that had emerged that seemed technologically feasible and seemed like it could be a real need if you could figure out a simple technological way to do it. But again, those are just some of the ideas that is that the last idea? Is that the only ones we have so far? Okay. Yes. So there have been several other ideas that have sort of been considered and what have you, but those are the ideas that currently people are working on. And so I think that all the other, so if anybody has not already put in chat, if you don't mind putting in chat one of the areas that you might be interested in joining, and I'll share my screen again just to get back to.
And Rob, if I could just, as I'm looking at the list, I still need choices from Dalton, Joseph, Corey, Mydot, Seth, Vivek, and William. I just need to know whether you want the bedroom, the bathroom, or the kitchen. So if you could just chat that, I'm ready to go with the rooms.
Yeah, okay, great. Thank you, Alan.
Yeah.
So basically, guys, again, what we set up, and I'll just show you what this is going to look like. Let me get back to, you guys can see my screen again, right? What we set up are these breakout rooms. And so these are set up in Google Docs, and it's a Google drawing file is actually the way the format works. But more or less, this is a file form that lets you kind of do a virtual whiteboard. So you guys can all see the Google Doc kind of mock up here in front of you, right? You just nod. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Quinn. I am watching your heads, so you nodding is great. And so basically, guys, as you can see, there's a template here for the value proposition canvas. And what we did is we captured notes from past meetings where people had brainstormed either elements of the value proposition canvas, so needs, jobs to be done, pains, gains, and then also ideas that they had brainstormed all the way on the left side here. And so what we wanted you guys to do is talk through the customer needs in the space you're in first. And this is up to you to look at and say, you know what, these are pretty good, but what about this? Like, people have pets, and this is a big reason that they have pets, right? And then what you guys can do is you can brainstorm solutions. Now, a couple of things about brainstorming. It helps a lot to anchor on some specific areas, so the whole group talks about one kind of element of the problem and then kind of works together to generate ideas. Remember before I said you there's this whole messy space. You pick a theme, and then you kind of dig deeper, and etc. So what you can do is you can, as a group, just start talking about, like, I think this is the biggest problem, or I think this is a great opportunity, or what about this? I feel like this is missing. And I would spend some time starting with the right side here, which is their people's needs in the circle. And you can add to it. The way this works is there's Post-it notes along the top. You can kind of see them halfway on the page here. You can just grab one of those Post-it notes and drag it down, and then you double click on it to start typing. It's pretty easy to work with. This is a drawing file, so the Post-it notes are like a little combination document file type. So you can actually mess them up. Anything you do that gets weird, you can just Control-Z and undo it. It's just like a lot of other documents too, so there's a chance that something could be on top of something else. You can change the order. If you right-click on something, you can go to order and you can send it to the back, you can bring it to the front, you can do all those kind of things. And so I just encourage you guys to start dragging some Post-it notes out, typing your thoughts. There's no wrong answers here, so we just want to get insights from the group. And so when Alan sends you out to your breakout room, he's going to share in chat, I believe, the Google Doc folder. Do you want me to share it, Alan, or do you have it?
You share it and I'll open the rooms. Or no, I got it. I'm sorry, I got it. Never mind.
So what he's going to share with you is actually the folder for all of these Google Doc files. And so what you need to do is look for the one that has the title based on the room that you asked for and that you volunteered for. When we send you to breakouts, you'll basically be in the Zoom session. You're talking, like I'm talking right now, to each other. And so I encourage you to turn on your camera and just introduce yourself and just start, talking when you're ready. But then on the Google Doc, you can actually use the Post-it notes. So you're kind of talking and using Post-it notes at the same time. So I encourage you not to be like a silent session where we're just moving Post-it notes around, and because your ideas will trigger other people's ideas. So it's important to kind of talk through it. And Alan and I will jump between rooms to help facilitate. If you guys get into a breakout room and you're having a problem, you can raise your hand and call us in, and we'll try to come and help. Any questions about the format? Can you guys get the, if you guys click on that link, is it working for you to get to the folder in Google Docs? Yeah, good. And so hopefully you'll see all the documents there. And then I guess we can, Alan, send them to breakout groups.
Yep, and if anyone wants to move or I accidentally put you in the wrong group, you could just send a message and we'll get it and move you.
Yeah, I think you can just leave the group actually and come back to the main room, and then we can put you in a different group.
Okay, so you've all been invited to your rooms. On the bottom, you need to press move to room or accept assignment.
Now, Alan, if you want to assign me to a breakout room, I think you have to do that first so that then I can jump to any breakout room I want to.
Yeah, why don't you start with the UV towel rack?
Okay.
Because they could use some guidance.
Sure.
There is no pet products or hot water monitor, and I'll jump into one of the rooms in the house.
Yeah. Well, just send me to the UV rack one.
You can't go yourself, huh?
No, you got to send me the first time.
Okay.